Hey guys, thank you so much, and welcome to the Game Your Future podcast, all about helping gamers realize their full potential. And today I have a special guest with us today. It is Matthew Robuck, who is a senior sales manager with Unicity, which is make sure I get this right. This is a medical intervention company,
You
right?
got it.
So
You got
Matt,
it.
thank you so much and welcome. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it, bud. I'm awesome. It's good to see you. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, it's great that you're doing this kind of outreach and bringing some discussions for gamers out there. So happy to be part of it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for participating as well. So, one of the things I think that we talk about before, right, as just, being gamers, right, we love our entertainment, our free time, but really about, it's also kind of in our lives, right? It's paying the bills, right, and doing our work. So tell me, I guess a little bit about the what you're doing now as far as the senior sales manager and, kind of I guess the way that you're handling it or, how you're able to get results.
Yeah, so I just started in the last 5 months this role. This is a big nutrition and supplements company, and we kind of battle big pharma and big governments and some of the popular uh, uh, medical drugs out there on the market for diabetes, weight loss, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and we have natural, safe alternatives to that. So it is a courageous battle, but one that Unicity's been fighting for, I think, 108 years. So
Wow.
yeah, we
Didn't
operate.
realize they were around that long. Yeah.
Yeah, we operate in about 60 countries. Got our roots as Rexall drugstores. Don't know if you remember Rexall. It was kind of the Walgreens of the early 1800s or 1900s. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I my role is to develop people and develop our sales network. So, we sell our products through multi-level marketing channel, and it's kind of fascinating to see anyone wide variety of backgrounds come on board because they usually try the products and have their aha moment and get healthy, and then they say, "Well, I know 7 people who are obese. I know 5 people on Ozempic or Wegovy," and so that's what kind of propels our growth. But the company as a whole does a very good job of um, helping our partners reach their true ability and growing
Gotcha.
growing the confidence of our partners and growing the um, you know um, mindset of our partners. So that's what I'm there to do is help people grow mentally, socially. It's when you deal with a wide range of people, we have neurosurgeons to soccer moms that are our distributors. So it's quite a unique career path. I came from 8 years at biotech startups. So I was part of an MIT consortium and think tank that we created a technology to convert water into liquid ozone for hygiene and food preservation and food safety.
Oh,
For 6 years before that, I was in stainless steel manufacturing for restaurants. So we were a huge $4 billion Swiss conglomerate, and we built all the kitchens for McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell's around the world. So I have
gotcha.
quite a wide range of career
Yeah.
path, but I've tried to
Gonna
either help.
say definitely a varied set of career and jobs that you've held.
Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah, and it's all been customer or partner facing. So I really enjoy being with people. I enjoy relationships. It's kind of a lost art form in today's everything done behind a screen. Relationships can suffer. So
Yep.
it's quite a you know great multifaceted experiences throughout my career, but I've always tried to either help the planet or help people. So with the ozone, we help the planet. With the supplements, we're helping people. So
Love it.
very grateful for my career path so far.
That's awesome. So yeah, with the huge wide array, like kind of the diverse jobs, the background that you've had. So really fascinated because one of the things is, and you talked about performance, right? I want to definitely hit on that. And what you mentioned as far as, growing people, right? Just trying to develop the people and having that kind of customer and that, person centric. I would assume with kind of the array, the background that you've had kind of a methodology, I guess, as far as you're working with people. And you mentioned as far as developing them now, is there a certain process or like what can we think as far as how we're developing these people? Because there is a lot of people that suffer that want to have a better, we call it mindset, but not a lot of people maybe understand the term, but a lot of it is just this kind of confidence. How do I get, how do I
Bingo.
simply get better at my job and how do I be more confident, right? So what is kind of the methodology that you've used to help yeah, I guess not only yourself, but those that you're training now.
Yeah, throughout my career and dealing with customers from a sales perspective or partners from a business development perspective, there's always been that C word issue, and it's confidence, right? I struggle with it. I'm sure you have areas of your life you struggle with confidence, but we live kind of in an age where there's a lot of, artificial um, things we see on TV or the internet that might not be true, and you get compared to a bodybuilder on the news or whatnot, and it's we live in kind of a false pretense of a world a lot of times. So I can't tell you how many times our entrepreneurs, our partners, tell me their number one issue is self-confidence and self-confidence to reach out and close a sale, self-confidence to get behind the screen on social media, self-confidence to present live to a group of people. And the one piece of advice I would give those people, and still to this day, is what happens if you get a no? What happens if this doesn't go well? Nothing. You're still going to be here. You're still going to be alive. You're still going to be in the same place you were before you asked that question or before you presented that speech or before you did this. You're going to be okay. But if you don't try it, you're
Mhm.
guaranteed failure.
That's powerful.
If you do try it, there's a chance you'll succeed. So, our like you said, our mindset is sometimes our best friend, but sometimes our worst enemy, right? So confidence plays a big role in that. And I teach people, your goal every day should be to get 1% better at one thing. Live your life, live your career, striving for just 1% better, you know? It could be as little as, I have an energy drink problem. So instead of four monsters today, I had three and a half, 1% better.
There
I
you go.
I'm sucking at sales this month. So instead of making 40 calls a day, I make 42 calls a day. Little incremental changes over the long term really grow a person's um, mentality to help them grow their career.
That's awesome. So a lot of powerful stuff just there, and I wanted to dig into some of that because you said so there was another C word in there. I heard that I've heard a lot as far as kind of a negative. So compare or comparison, right? So it's just I've heard it so many times too. Is like comparison is just the enemy of progress, right? Because if you're
Sure.
always comparing yourself to somebody else that's further ahead, you're always going to feel behind. And it's like, well, you don't know the journey that they went through to get to that place. Like they might have put in, more hours, more time to get to where they are. So you
Yep.
looking at it where you are, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And so it just robs us of our confidence, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's a great uh, I don't know, snippet I've read a long time ago, but it was something along the lines of an engineer was very specialized engineer was called out to a job and found that they only had to twist like one little bolt on a mechanism, right? But billed the person, $2,000. And the customer said, "Are you kidding me? $2,000 for one little,
like
switch?
turning the
I could have done
screwdriver,
that."
right?
And
Yeah.
he said, "I'm not billing you for what I just did for 5 minutes. I'm billing you for the 20 years of education I took to get to that point where I knew That's all it took, right? So, comparing yourself to that person who may have done a lot of work on the back end, is incorrect. You're absolutely right.
Right, absolutely. And I think with the social media, kind of what you mentioned, whether it's TV and social media these days, it's so easy to compare, right? Because everybody has
Yeah.
these like,
Yeah.
and like you mentioned, these kind of like false persona kind of just to kind of summarize kind of your words, it's like, you don't really see the whole picture, right? You see, I like to call it the highlight reel, right? Everybody
Yeah.
shows on social media kind of the highlight reel. Look at how well I'm doing. It's like, yeah, but are they, first, is it truthful, right? Are they really at that point, or is it just like, smoke and mirrors? It just kind of, it looks good, but that's not actually how I'm living, is one thing. Or two, you don't see all the work that they don't post on how they got there, right?
Go spend a half a day down in downtown Miami and see all the Lamborghinis, and 90% are rentals, right?
Yeah,
So it's a
exactly.
fake it's a fake
Yeah. Rent a
persona.
Lambo
It's a
for a day, take lots
fake
of pictures and
facade.
just, yeah,
Fake facade. Yep.
it's absolutely true. So, and there was another part of that that I love as far as, just simply getting better. I love the idea that just kind of the self-improvement, right? And that's kind of what I'm here to help with the gamers to do is to say you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get a little bit better every day. Just that 1% better, like you said. I love that. There's just like you don't even have to make huge leaps and bounds, but if you just kind of constantly work at it, just a little bit at a time, it'll pay in the long term.
Every successful entrepreneur will tell you that when they felt like giving up, they didn't give up, right? They pushed through, and they might have had 1,000 failures, but it was attempt 1,001 where they made it big, right? So
Yeah.
if you
My
keep,
yeah, my two favorite examples of that is of course you might know the Thomas Edison example, building, when he invented the light bulb, right? And they even interviewed him after, like when he did it, and he found, I think it was 10,000
yeah,
tries, right?
yep,
He
yep,
tried 10,000 times,
yep,
and then he finally did it. And it's like, what did you think about failing 10,000 times to get? And he's like, I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work.
yep, exactly. Yep, yep.
Again,
That's
it's
what
that
it is.
reframe. It's that little mindset shift that just says it's not a failure. You're just trying things to get to the success. The only way you truly fail is like if you just give up. Like then, okay, you give up. Sure, you failed at that point. But if you don't ever give up and you keep trying, you just haven't hit the success yet.
You got it. You got it.
That's good. And then I do like the the taking action, right? And it's like if you don't take action, just to repeat that phrase because I love that. It's like if you take the action, you could succeed and it might take time and it might have some trial and error to get there. But if you don't try, you won't succeed. Like
I
there's
know.
very few guarantees in
Yep.
life, right?
Yep.
How can you truly guarantee something? But there is one thing you can guarantee is that if you don't try, then it won't work because you
Bingo.
haven't tried. Like
Bingo.
this, if you try, you're not guaranteed to succeed, but if you don't try, you're guaranteed not to.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think a lot of people, especially in this part of the world, were so ingrained in instant gratification for everything. Instant gratification. I mean, you don't even have to leave your house anymore to get your groceries, right? So, the I think the process of building a successful business or successful career and the time and investment it takes into doing that scares a lot of people off because they're so used to that instant gratification cycle. As humans, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, we used to have to hunt for our dinner, then, build a fire to cook our dinner. And now,
Yep.
30 seconds in a microwave seems too long. So, um, you know,
Very
it's,
good
it's
point. Because
kind of, in one way we've evolved, but another way we've kind of devolved, right? So
because I mean we're dependent on some of these these different changes that have happened to society that make life better, but now we're dependent on, and so we have these expectations, and I think the instant gratification is definitely one that I think we as gamers, it hits us harder in a sense because we have, like, everybody understands, like, oh, instant gratification, everybody has a short attention span, but nobody knows this more intuitively and more deeply than gamers. because everything that happens in the games has to be this kind of, compelling, engaging, part of the games that, when you do something in a game, there is instant feedback, whether you did it right or wrong. You're, whether it's, you pick anything like shooting games, fighting games, just whatever, like, you get hit in a game, that's, call it a failure or call it a setback, but like
Yeah.
it's an instant feedback that says, I
Yep.
did this and this happened and I got hit, shot, whatever.
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to not do that and I'm going to get better. So having
Yeah.
this instant feedback is good for some regards because it gives you that data point, in your mind to say, "Oh, I can change and I can do this differently."
Yep. Yep.
I think the problem we run into outside of gaming and in life is that, like I said, so we're so in tune to this instant gratification that when it doesn't happen, when we don't get the instant gratification, meaning we don't get the feedback, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to change or change fast enough to adapt to our circumstance. So then we
The
get frustrated or overwhelmed.
the hardest thing you will do in this world is ask another human being to change something about themselves. We are pre-wired. Our biology, our makeup is to embrace comfort, embrace similarity, embrace knowledge or the knowledge of being where we are and having our safety and security. So the hardest thing a salesperson will do is ask someone to try something new. The hardest thing a doctor will do is ask them to try, an experimental plan. We are wired for comfort, and change for so many people is daunting. It's extremely scary, and we naturally reject it without even really thinking about it, right? So I think the statistic is 70% of people's biggest phobia is public speaking. Somewhere around there is public
That's
speaking. So,
I believe it. That's yeah. You
it's
see, being on the podcast, not my own, but but I've definitely heard of that a lot. Is that public
yeah.
speaking is a huge issue for people.
Yeah.
So
So, we don't like to get out of our comfort zone.
right,
And
and that's a big deal, right? Getting out of the comfort zone. So okay, so when you're talking about how you're developing and training people,
Mhm.
how I mean the very simple question is how do you get around that? You're like people are so ingrained and want to be comfortable that how do you get them into action, right? Like how do you get them to change or how do you get them to grow? Like what has been your,
well,
success?
well, the first step is kind of going over what we just discussed is if you don't change, I know what your outcome's going to be. If you don't take this step, I know what your outcome's going to be. And so when we really go over the fact that, their world's not going to implode tomorrow if they, give a presentation or do a live video session on social media or what, that those natural wired boundaries start to fall, right? So um, that's kind of where we start is making them realize that, uh, what's the definition of insanity, right? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So a lot of people come to me and say they're struggling with sales. They're struggling with growing their business. They're struggling with, customer retention and they're just stagnant and they don't know what to do. And one good example was a woman came to me and said, I've been going on social media every day at 8:05 a.m. and I've my sales have flattened. I said, what's the definition of insanity? You're doing the same thing every day. Well, if you want to reach more audience, why don't you go live on social media at 12 p.m. or 5 p.m.? Why would you, so um, yeah, it's just, getting them to realize that they have to make these changes incrementally and they have support. We do a very good job of being there for presentations and events and when they host online sessions and stuff, but um it's just a necessary path of growth. So the first step is making them realize that they're not going to do anything different if they don't try, right? So it's um their reality. Um, will explore where they want to go, their goals, right? So, we have to kind of make the reality catch up to the goal a little bit. And then how do you reach your goal? Well, what opportunities do you have or can think of to reach that goal? What are the options, you know? And then we kind of write down a roadmap, a plan. You know, what will you do? How will you achieve your goal? Looking at your opportunities, looking at what's out there, looking at your network, looking at customer bases, looking at um, you know, new business. Let's write a plan. Let's write some options on what you can do to tackle those. And really, it goes back to that 1% better every day. When we have a strong daily method of operation or DMO, um, it kind of makes it palatable or breathable for young entrepreneurs to really have a good daily path of growth and getting away from that routine, that stagnancy, that doing the same thing over and over again.
Gotcha. That's wow. Some powerful stuff. I think to help kind of ground it for some of us and to try to,
Yeah,
I'll
I
say
talk a
massage some of
lot,
the
man. I'm
words.
sorry.
Oh no, you're good. So what I think was phenomenal, right, as far as like getting clear, right, on kind of what you want, like the goals, right? Because one of the things you mentioned is that we're comfortable the way we are, and I know like some of my mentors too have kind of taught and what I kind of teach and some to some of my clients too, where this kind of goal we call it kind of the future self vision, right? Which is say where do you want to be, who do you want to be, how do you want to be in the future, and how you are now. And so having that comparison and then saying like, well, what do you have to do to get there, right? Because as you mentioned, understanding the game plan, the what that you're going to do to get there, but making sure that it's clear what that future vision is. And again, like you said, if you don't do anything, if you don't change, if you don't take the action, there's your insanity definition that you
Yep,
won't get there.
yep,
So
yep,
in a way, and this the way it was framed to me was phenomenal is to say, okay, well, we're comfortable the way we are. But if we look at our future self vision and say, well, we're not there, that creates that disturbance, that uncomfortableness to say, well, like, well, suddenly I'm not comfortable where I am. I want to be over there. So I
yep.
might be comfortable in the moment, but when I am looking where I want to go, I'm like, oh, suddenly I'm not comfortable. And that'll help us, understand that we need to change.
It's exactly right. Exactly right. And once people realize that, then there's kind of a fire lit,
Yeah.
under them, right? And look, nobody wants to be living in their parents' basement for their entire life, right? But we get comfortable and complacent, and a lot of times there's enablers and stuff of that nature. So um, it's going back to that mindset shift, right? We talked
Yep.
about earlier. It's you know uh
And
growth through um that 1% every day.
yeah. And I think an important point of that too, what you kind of touched on was, understanding that we can get 1% better, great. And as far as what we do, but an important piece of that I think a lot of people forget is understanding what we can control,
Mhm.
right? There's so much in the world that happens that we say, well, because of X, right? Like, well, now's not a good time to start a business because of the economy, because of tariffs, because of whatever it is. And there's so many things that we say it's just not the right time. It's like, well, it's never going to be perfect. Conditions will never be perfect.
Nope.
You just have to go with what you have. You have to understand what you can control and focus on that. And that's something that I've heard is was profound to me too, to say if you just only focus on what you can control, you'll be ahead of like 90% of people
Today
because
is a
there's so many
better
people stuck complaining about what they can't change.
today is a better opportunity than yesterday, no matter what, because yesterday's done.
There you go. Fantastic. I love it. So another thing I think for kind of the gamer sense of it, right, is is understanding these kind of limitations in a game, right? Because I think it's very clear in a game what you can control. Your character, whatever kind of the interface they give you. It says like I have agency, I have control over my character. Great. You get outside the game, it's not as black and white. You're like, okay, well, I can move around, I can do whatever. It's my body, I can do what I want. But then it's a little bit more gray as far as like, things that we do that affect the world versus like these kind of whether it's global, political issues or whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that you think you can control or you think should be better or different. And I just wanted to get kind of your perspective as far as like what do you think as far as like how can somebody who's going from like I guess in a game you can call it on rails in sense of like here's your controlled sphere called the game and you get outside of it and you're like now I'm overwhelmed. What can I control? What can I not? What should I focus on? What would you say to those kind of people that are like I just don't know where to focus. There's so much.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? There's, to start a new venture of any sort, there's a million things that you can do the most planning for, the most due diligence, the most this and the most that. But the reality is, most small businesses will fail. Um, I don't know of any 1,000-year-old companies out there, So, um, the the what I tell entrepreneurs is that if they focus on their personal growth, other things will follow, right? They focus on being the best version of themselves. The outside, the noise, the greater world of turmoil and stress and changes that will eventually fall to a level where you're not so threatened by it. But you really need to just focus on your path, your goals, and your why, right? Because you can be the best planner in the world, and then an earthquake out of nowhere hits tomorrow, and your building is rubble, right? So, there's, what is it? 7 people die a year from a vending machine falling on them. So,
I had not heard that one.
oh yeah, 5 or 7 people die every year around the
Wow.
world for falling vending machines. So,
Dang.
uh, it's just that kind of thing we can never plan for. So focusing on your daily method of operation, focusing on your personal growth is really how we encourage our entrepreneurs to start building their brand, building their name, building their footprint. Um, and it can get overwhelming a lot, every successful entrepreneur in the world, um, every champion in some ways said to themselves, "I'm quitting." Everyone's said it or thought it at one point or another. But I think that's part of human nature as well. Is going back to the biology, the wiring part, right? But um,
Just
you
being
know,
able to overcome that adversity, right? It's just
that's what
huge.
separates the winners from the non-winners, my friend.
Yep,
Yep. So.
absolutely. So I think it's that clear definition, that clear goal to say, okay, this is where I want to be. I'm not there yet, and there's an obstacle that gets in your way, right? Because I love I think it was a psychology kind of study or test that was done, and it's so telling for this, where you have to be very clear on what your goals are. So imagine the way the study worked. I think is imagine you're in a blank room, just and there's nothing in there, and the tester says, "All right, you're going to stand in this corner, and I want you to walk to this opposite corner." And then suddenly they shove a chair in your way, and you're like, "Okay, well I'm going to that corner. I'm just going to walk around it." And then the people that they tested the other way, they said, all right, stand anywhere in the room and just walk forward. And as they walk forward, they put the chair in the way. And then they just stop and they can't go anywhere. They're like, why'd you stop? It's like, well, you put a chair in my way. I just told you to walk forward. And of course, you had some of the few people, the adventurous ones that they like walk over the chair and they keep going. But for most people, it just stopped them because it wasn't clear what they were supposed to do or how they get ahead. And when you had a clear goal where you're like, I just need you to get to the other corner, yeah, people will walk around it, people will walk over it, and then it's like, well, why did I told you to walk to the corner, you know, and even if they said, I told you to walk in a straight line, why did you, well, you told me to get to the corner. That was the goal. It didn't matter how I got there, right?
Exactly.
Exactly right.
And the plan that you have, the goal that you have, if you write it down and you're good about reflecting back on it and making it part of your subconscious and really visualizing your goals being achieved every day. That's something we're big about is we want you to write your goals down for 1 year down the road, and you need to visualize that goal. You know, so many successful people in interviews have said, growing up, I knew I was going to do this or that because I thought about it every night before I slept as a child, right? That's real. Your subconscious brain is real and it is very powerful.
Yeah.
And when you kind of work on your subconscious by visualizing your goals every day, twice a day, 3 times a day. Say to yourself, by this time, my goal right now in my um, role, my job is that I'm going to be increasing North American revenue by $100 million by March of next year. That's a
Wow.
huge goal, right? So
Yeah.
but I start every business day, even most weekends, by spending 10 minutes visualizing the handshake I'm going to have with my boss when he congratulates me for adding $100 million worth of growth to the company. I
Wow.
visualize it. So, it's very, very powerful to have goals, to have kind of a roadmap, if you will. Every game has maps on it, right? Every game has a platform, a layout, a
Yep.
landscape, um, and there's a reason for that, right?
You're right.
We
There's
Go ahead.
nothing, and maps don't work unless you have, there's three things, right? If you want to get somewhere and you have a map, there's the three things you need. You need the map of like what it looks like, where you can go, how you can get there. You need the destination, and the third thing is you need to know where you are, right? GPS
Yeah.
doesn't work if it doesn't know your location.
Imagine if you were at a mall, a new mall, trying to find the food court, and you went up to the map and it did not have the "You are here" sticker, you know?
You'd be
So,
lost.
yeah, I would go crazy.
Trying to figure out, you look at landmarks, you're like, all
I'd
right,
leave
I'm
the
next to this
mall.
store and
Yeah.
this store. Is that somewhere on the, and you spending like 20 minutes trying to find where.
Exactly. That "You are here" button is very important,
Oh yeah,
right?
very important. So I love that. And just so kudos to you and what you're working on too, because and like you said, there's really nothing better than investing in yourself. Right. And I know that was a big Warren Buffett quote, if I remember
Oh,
right.
Warren's the man.
He's the
Yeah.
best.
He
There's what was his exact quote is, yeah, there's no better investment in the world than in yourself.
It's not a losing investment, that's for sure.
And it's never a losing investment. So
Yeah,
invest in yourself.
exactly.
Awesome. So, as we kind of close out for this particular episode, I did want to ask, so I guess where can people find you? Like, is this something that, are you sharing with kind of the world, or can we learn more about you and your company? How
Yeah,
can people?
I'm on LinkedIn. Matthew Robuck. I actually have a Facebook page for Unicity, so Matthew Robuck Feel Great. And I'm on Instagram somewhat, mostly for the cat memes, but
There
uh,
you go.
you know, but yeah, please reach out. I'd love to talk to anyone who could use a little confidence boost or need a tip here and there on business development. I had my first business when I was 4 years old as a hot dog stand to the construction workers in the neighborhood. I had my second business in early high school selling drug auction jewelry online. I've done every job in hospitality and food service you could ever imagine, but I love the idea, especially in this country, of building your own brand, your own business, your own success, building your own foundation and getting that generational wealth for your family. So anyone who wants to take that step and lead their own path is I highly respect and encourage, even in the worst economic times, political times, times of uncertainty. There's like we agree. There's no better investment than in yourself. So the only way you're gonna fail is if you don't try.
Exactly right. Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
So I think as we close out, so I wanted to rapid fire. What is the number one piece of advice that you would have? Just if you could distill it all down into one thing, what would you say is the best advice for a budding entrepreneur?
You're gonna make mistakes. Don't get mad at them. Learn from them.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. And one quick final question I like to ask everyone on this podcast before we go. What is your favorite video game?
So I knew this was coming, man. It's a lifetime of, you know, lifetime history here. It's either the Area 51 arcade game at the Pizza Hut buffet,
Love
growing up
it.
as growing up as a child,
Mhm.
or GoldenEye N64.
Ooh, very good choice. Very good
So
choice.
it's a toss up between those two.
I love it. Love them both. Awesome. Well, Matt, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hey,
That's been
Daniel, pleasure,
fantastic. So,
man. Good to see you, bud. Talk
abs-
soon.
all right. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.